Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Fiber Broadband Association webinar entitled Bridging the Last Mile, How Fiber and Next-Gen Fixed Wireless Can Work Together to Accelerate Broadband Expansion. This webinar is presented by Wave, Tarana, and a special guest from Declation Networks Group. I'm Lisa Rosen, webinar producer at FBA. One moment while we cover some housekeeping details. Please note that all attendees are in listen-only mode. We will have a Q&A session following the presentation, so please ask your questions throughout using the questions tool located below the video panel. Also, in the upper right-hand corner of your console, you can find reactions if you want to share instant feedback with the presenters. This webinar will be available on demand on the FBA website under the Events Webinars section. Finally, at the end of this webinar, you'll be prompted to complete a brief survey. Please take a moment to respond, as your feedback is very valuable to us. With that, we'll get started. Today, we are pleased to be joined by Bayan Deanparvar, Fiber Solutions Engineer at Wave, Kyle Freitas, Channel Manager at Tarana, and Bob Nicols, CEO of Declation Networks Group. This webinar will explore how next-generation fixed wireless access technology, such as Tarana's platform, can complement fiber deployments by efficiently bridging the last mile and accelerating time to revenue in hard-to-reach areas. And with that, I'll introduce Bayan and turn things over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate the intro. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. The importance of gigabit-capable fiber connectivity in today's market is well understood. So we're not going to spend time revisiting that discussion. Instead, we'll focus on how service providers can expand broadband access more efficiently and effectively in an increasingly complex deployment environment. I heard Gary Bolton say in one of the fiber shows that we're living in a historic telecommunications shift, on par with the construction of the national highway system or the rail system. And that's very true. BEAD is a big contributor of that. And with a change of this magnitude, there comes inevitable challenges. And these are, but not limited to, labor shortages, the simultaneous global rise of hyperscalers, the volatile geopolitical conditions, all that contribute to drive up cost for operators. Where traditional fiber ROI falls short, or if extended poll studies or permitting would affect the ISP's time to market, fixed wireless access becomes indispensable to bridge the gap and a complementary tool for fiber network expansions. So as we look to build networks better and faster, it would be prudent to accentuate the next generation fixed wireless access technology And a leader in that arena is, of course, Tarana Networks. We have with us today the infamous Kyle Freitas from Tarana to introduce what next generation fixed wireless access is and how it differs from the legacy products of the years past. We're also very grateful to have with us Mr. Bob Nicols, the CEO of Declation Networks, whose hybrid fiber and wireless networks expands across 8 states. And he's here to share with us real-life experiences using Tarana. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm thrilled to have you guys with us today.
Thank you, Bayan.
Thank you, Bayan.
All right, Kyle, if you don't mind, we'll start with you. Can you speak a little bit about Tarana Networks and who you are?
Sure. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Tarana has been around for 15 years, and we are based in Milpitas, California, south of the San Francisco Bay. We've been heavily engineering focused over that time period, and the vast majority of our employees are engineers, and they're developing our next product. We manufacture only one type of radio system, and that's a point to multi-point radios. And what that means is that we have radios up high on a tower, water tank, silo, building, and it radiates down from there and covers an area around those radios. And the customer will have radios on their location. We can connect from one base node on a tower to many remote sites, the customer sites, and that's why we call it multi-point, point to multi-point. We have over 546 operators delivering high-speed internet access across 28 countries now. We started shipping our first products back in 2021 and our upgraded G2 product starting last year. And we are heavily invested in our newest product that we hope to unveil in 2027. Thank you.
Awesome. So next generation fixed wireless access acts as a powerful strategic multiplier rather than a replacement for fiber. Walk us through why Tarana is a complementary tool edge out of hybrid networks. Is it performance? Is it speed? Is it cost? Is it all of the above?
Yeah. Okay, I will take that on. So every operator, as you well know, has limited resources and time to improve service and provide better network performance, to maintain customer satisfaction, improve that, and also ensure loyalty with those customers, to reduce churn, which is really expensive to operators when you have customers leave the service and it's expensive to acquire new ones. So next generation fixed wireless access, NG-FWA, is a huge improvement in capability, performance, reliability, flexibility, and deployment options, network management, and upgradability compared to the legacy fixed wireless access products and solutions that have been around for decades. NG-FWA, Tarana in particular, allows operators to quickly provide a lot of coverage near an existing fiber-centric network. And what Bayan was talking about is this edge out strategy where you have fiber coming to the towers and you can provide service all the way to that tower with laterals, homes passed, and you want to do that and continue to do that and entrench as much as you can and cover as many customers and get them on the fiber service that you can possibly do. But in those hard to reach areas, especially where you're crossing rights away, the geography challenges of rocky soil, it's hard to, trench and put in conduit, rivers, lakes, roads, bridges, buildings, all the hardscape areas of the suburbs and also the urban areas. This is a great delivery technology to provide fiber performance to homes, multi-dwelling units, and businesses that integrates well with your existing network. So the idea is you can provide similar service across your network area to customers, whether they're on fiber or they're on fixed wireless. The other part of it is Tarana's completed a detailed study in some areas, and one in particular was Bonner County in Idaho. And basically we were looking at the comparison for them to edge out an existing internet service providers fiber-centric network out and cover additional areas that they wanted to. And because of Idaho has challenging terrain, as you know, in some areas, it proved that Tarana could provide the service for about a tenth the cost of delivering fiber to the home for the same homes passed compared to fiber. Now, this was a very specific area. It was a lighter density rural area, like the example that Bayan has on the left-hand side. And basically $120,000 just in radios, cables, and accessories, and then the cost to labor and permitting and everything else to get everything attached to the tower and activated. But it enabled the ability of covering thousands of homes and MDUs and businesses across multiple towers, but be able to provide up to 2,000 connected customers with 4 radios off that one tower, and then that could be replicated on multiple towers. So if there's the possibility of leasing space on existing tower silos, water tanks, or tall buildings, the time from planning to activation is a lot less, about 30 to 45 days. And after the tower has radios radiating, then you can connect customers to those base nodes that are high up on the tower or some other location that's able to shine down on those areas. So benefits are obviously cost and time to deliver, and it will integrate well with your service offerings of providing packages that are 200 meg, 500 meg, a full gig, usually for businesses, but some consumers want that as well. And so you can provide a similar service. You can determine what service is available down to the address and the home locations and the business locations based upon our planning tools as well.
That's true. One of the services that we offer at Wave is we can do comprehensive heat map solutions before a customer actually deploys the tower site, where you can see exactly how many BSAs you'd be able to service, and you can actually, with current LiDAR technology, go down to the decibel level of the RSSI to know exactly what power level each one of those subscribers will be able to get. Bob, Declation Networks is a true hybrid service provider. You guys have fiber networks as well as fixed wireless access. When evaluating potential new markets, what key criteria dictates your decision to deploy fiber optics versus fixed wireless infrastructure? Can you walk us through that decision process?
Yeah, thanks, Bayan. And just to back up a bit, I want to thank FBA for this opportunity. I want to thank Wave and Tarana as well, who have been good partners for us. Declation Networks has been around for about as long as Tarana, 15 years. And, historically, what we've done right from the start is look to solve a regional problem, right? A county, multiple counties. And it didn't make sense for us to, out of the gate, say we're going to provide fiber to a region from a cost perspective. So we've, out of the gate, always looked at our go-to-market as a hybrid approach. And what Tarana and fixed wireless, next generation fixed wireless in particular, has afforded us is the ability to do that in a much more aggressive way. As Kyle mentioned, the customer, gets similar speeds, reliability, latency. We're able to offer up to a gig in some cases, half a gig in almost every case. And the consumer is none the wiser relative to the technology approach that we utilize. So our view is a customer-focused view. Are we providing services that allow us to do subscriber acquisition? Yes. Are we able to retain that customer when competition comes in? Yes. And are we able to grow the region? And the answer to all of those is yes. And do we have satisfied customers? So that's the real test for us. Are we solving the service needs for the residences, the businesses in the regions that we're serving.
Essentially using the right tool for the right job.
That's exactly right, Bayan. Using the right tool for the right job. And so what is interesting about that, right, is we started 15 years ago. We started with somebody other than Tarana because that's when they got their start. I sure wish that Tarana was around 15 years ago. I think the complexion of how we went to market would have been much different. And we're glad that they're here and able to complement what we've done so far.
So you mentioned your customers are getting gigabit connectivity using Tarana. That's right on par with fiber. Is there any gap? I mean, is there really any downfall or negative aspect of using a wireless connection versus a fiber connection?
So there's pros and cons to both, right? From a service delivery perspective, I will tell you that there are times when fiber gets cut. There are times when we are dealing with wildfires. We're dealing with them in Nevada right now. We've been dealing with them in Washington State that impact service. Repair of fiber networks takes a little longer than it does for a wireless network. So there's some things that wireless avoids in terms of those types of disasters and restore times, which favors wireless, is what I would say. That being said, I think there are benefits to fiber as well. Overall, I think there's pros and cons to both. But from a customer perspective, when both are working, there's very little difference.
I'm glad to hear you say that because, I mean, it's very interesting. The fixed wireless access acts as a resiliency at times to existing fiber customers. So you have mission critical connections, emergency services, hospitals, banks, so on and so forth. You're right. Fiber, there could be road construction, not even nearby, but 10 miles down the line. Operators sometimes have to do type B OLT resiliency to kind of overcome that. That gets very expensive. But in a mission critical type infrastructure, even if they have multiple fiber providers, if it's not in a diverse path, they can all get cut. So having a wireless backup connection there that is gigabit capable or fiber capable would be a huge benefit to the ISP operators.
Absolutely. And I think in some of those cases, the mission critical customers that we serve, in many cases, we'll have a fiber connection. We'll have a backup wireless connection as well. That's a perfect example of kind of a resiliency plan that makes sense where they're complementing each other.
Kyle, we have a question coming in about the bandwidth and the example that you use in Idaho. What was the total bandwidth that you were able to provide to 1,000 customers?
Okay, that example was CBRS, which is 3 gigahertz. And the benefit of 3 gigahertz is that it can handle foliage better and penetrate through trees and things like that. We still have the ability of doing non-line of sight with all of our radios, meaning we can use multipath to ricochet off of objects, solid objects, and reconform the signal on the other side perfectly. So both radios are optimizing the signal. So here again, we use 3 gig because the environment and the geography, and that was the best solution. So aggregate, we could get customers up to 800 megabits. That's download and upload speeds combined, up to 800 meg. Now, we were able to service customers at 100 meg by 20 and 200 meg by 20, and then up to 400 meg by 50, and then all the way up to 600 meg by 150. It depended on where the customer's located and obstacles in the way and what have you. But that was the situation with that customer. So it varied depending on how we could connect to those customers and the performance of the radios. And then we selected the best cost-effective towers. So we could have infilled with additional towers to provide higher performance across the whole network, but that worked for the customer.
Perfect. Bob, do you see Tarana or fixed wireless access as a long-term solution or as a bridge until fiber gets there?
Well, I see it as a long-term solution that could be used as a bridge. When we put in Tarana networks, in many cases, it's serving existing fiber to the home networks, in some cases including ours, but of course extends well beyond that. So even in the footprint that we have for fiber, if there's long drops that are better served by Tarana, we'll certainly offer that up to the customer. It's a faster install, less disruptive for a long driveway or a hard to reach area if it needs to, traverse a railroad or whatever it may be. It's just a lot more flexible to fill in the gaps as we kind of move forward. So I see it as clearly a long-term solution that additionally can be used as a bridge to the extent we need to.
Very cool. So Kyle, I think he mentioned a little bit about the investors in lending. And Bob, how do investors and lenders look at your wireless assets versus your fiber access assets? How does it differ? Do they look at wireless differently than fiber? I mean, what is the valuation like as far as the company goes?
Is that a question for me?
It's a question for you, Bob. Sorry.
Sure, Kyle. Sorry. Go ahead.
So fiber is the gold standard. Everybody understands that. And the investors and financiers, they realize that the valuations for an operator with fiber can go all the way up to 22 times EBITDA, right? And that's the best. And depending on what kind of fiber it is it terrestrial fiber or is it aerial fiber, that will change the valuations somewhat as well. So that's kind of the high end of it. The other part of it is fixed wireless. Well, if it's legacy fixed wireless, the valuation is very, very low. For Tarana, with just Tarana without any other hybrid capability of fiber included in that network and so forth, you're going to see valuations from about 6.5 to about 9 plus. We're starting to see some that are 10 and a half, but it's very specific to that operator and a lot of variables go into figuring that out. The good thing about the hybrid solution where it's, fiber centric and we have fixed wireless complementing that network, the valuations are 7 to 12 plus EBITDA. So that for a lot of our customers that have fiber, in fact, the vast majority of our customers are hybrid networks. Their valuation is actually up a lot higher than if it's just purely next generation fixed wireless with Tarana. So that's a good thing. And that's why we always want to complement fiber. The other component of that is not only is the valuations higher, which can help out with financing and getting loans and leases and other things that you may want to do with your network down the road, maybe 5 years down the road, mergers and acquisition or whatever. But the other benefit too is the industry is starting to understand that evaluating the network is more complementary to what we've considered homes passed. And that is really beneficial because with fixed wireless, you can cover a large area and a lot of customers, and a lot of homes passed, a lot of businesses and multi-dwelling units with very little infrastructure cost associated with that. So The benefit, of course, is the hybrid of both. And that's what we're seeing for valuations.
Yes. We have another question that came in regarding heat maps for Tarana projects. What does WAVE need to provide those heat maps? We can do it in a number of different ways. If you want, if you contact info@waveonline.com, just waveonline.com, and I'm going to add that in at the end of the presentation as well. If you want to draw a Google map area that you want to cover, if you don't have tower assets already picked out, we can provide you heat maps if we have the elevation and the GPS coordinates. If you don't have a tower picked out, if we can find one for you out of the FCC sites of available towers, and then choose one that would give you the best coverage area for the area that you have designated where you needed the coverage. Kyle, so you mentioned CBRS and line of sight, and you also mentioned multipath. How does line of sight really play? I mean, I know Tarana handles interference far better than the legacy fixed wireless access. That's probably why the price tag is a little bit different than, there's quite a bit of technology involved in your BNs and your RNs, or the base nodes and the remote nodes, or the subscriber modules that go at the customer homes. If you can elaborate a little bit about that technology and why is it so superior? And in the environment of unlicensed spectrum, how are you managing to overcome that interference?
Okay, great question. So let's talk about interference first. So interference is multiple operators using the same frequency at the same time. So think about, you go into a bar and it's like really noisy in there. You can't really hear anybody, but there's a lot of noise and you can't detect conversations per se unless you're really close to somebody. We're able to deal with that, deal with all that ambient noise that on the same frequency, operating in the same area. And what we're able to do is basically not listen to areas where there's interference directed at our radios, but it's not from the radios that we want to connect to. So therefore, we're able to not listen in that direction. And we don't transmit in that area either. So we don't create additional interference where it doesn't belong. We know where all of our radios are because we have GPS, and the base nodes on the towers are the high spots. They know exactly where all the remote nodes are that are connected to businesses and customers. So therefore, with timing and a lot of processing power in these radios to the tune of like 4 teraflops and more that the base nodes operate on, we're able to detect and not listen in those areas. So we actually put a null in the waveform. We change the waveform of how we transmit, and we don't inject energy where it doesn't belong, and we don't listen in that direction either. So therefore, we can operate in a very noisy environment, like Bayan said, in non-licensed spectrum, which is 5 gigahertz and 6 gigahertz. 3 gigahertz is lightly licensed, but that's easy to get licenses or use available spectrum. Okay, so the first thing is interference. We can deal with all that noise. We can drop the noise level down and be able to communicate very effectively with our radios. The second thing he had asked about is line of sight. So if there's no obstructions between the radios and you could see each side, then we call that clear line of sight or line of sight. And the radios are optimized for that. All the radios in the world are optimized for that, where there's no obstructions and no chance of the signal getting deflected and reduced and dropped off because of all this stuff it has to navigate through and bounce off of ricochet and so forth. Tarana uses multipath. And because of a lot of computing power in the radios on both ends, the base node high in the tower and the remote nodes at the customer site, we're able to optimize the signal by using multiple paths of that signal and taking the best of and reconstituting the signal on the other end. And we optimize it on both ends with both radios. So this allows us to deal with near line of sight issues where maybe there's trees or there's power cables or something in between the radios, but you can still see the other side for the most part. And we could also deal with non-line of sight where there's no ability to see the other side because there's obstructions. Now, trees are a challenge, but we don't penetrate through an object. What we do is ricochet off of it and then collect the signal when it bounces off something else and eventually arrives at the other side. We can deal with non-line of sight, and it works actually better where there's a lot of hardscape, where there's buildings and roads and things that we can ricochet off of better. And that enables us to make connections in really, really hard, difficult locations where the customers have a lot of trees around their houses. Maybe it's a suburban area where you have some buildings and businesses and higher, taller things that are obstructing. And then, of course, in the metro area, we actually work really, really well because here again, in the metro areas, we have a lot of reflective surfaces. And that's how we're able to provide great connections, very high speed, even though there's obstructions in the way. And there's a lot of noise out there from other providers.
It's interesting you say the metro areas because metro areas is one of those areas where road right-of-ways may be congested or permitting or pole access may be limited. And if, time to market is critical and the lack of ISP or service provider ability, there's legacy carriers that have the monopoly in those areas for years and years and years. To be able to provide an alternative choice to the residents of that area sounds like this would be the perfect solution. Well, Bob, Kyle just gave us a whole lot of hype, technical jargon about how well Tarana works.
Yeah, thank goodness he's here. He didn't ask me that question.
Is it really true? Does it really work that well?
Well, yeah, I don't know about how it does. Apparently Kyle does. He did a great job explaining it, but it does absolutely what he's describing. Our ability to get into hard to reach places with the Tarana gear is absolutely remarkable. And in the past, we've been putting up networks where we'd have to daisy chain, for lack of a better term, radios. When we put up Tarana, we don't necessarily need to do that because it's able to navigate through the way that Kyle's explained, bouncing off of hardscapes and get to the final destination in a way that still performs with high reliability and higher speeds. So, yeah, absolutely.
Good to hear. You see, hey, Kyle, we brought somebody to vet you.
Very good.
Perfect.
We have a question coming in. I'm looking at a new area where I may deploy a combination of fiber and Tarana. I haven't designed a hybrid network before, so what steps would be recommended to make sure both networks are planned and deployed properly? Again, if you just contact info@waveonline.com, WAVONLINE.com, or if, I don't know if we have any attendees to our friends to the north, but Wave is a North American operator. Our sister company, MBSI Wave, is north of the border. For the Canadian markets, that would be info@mbsiwave.com. We can certainly help you plan and make sure that your dollar goes the furthest in your network deployment. Kyle, anything else you want to add?
I think the other opportunity is you can consider looking at other areas, and Bayan, you touched on this a little bit, is other areas where there's one cable operator, there's a lot of frustrated customers, and that would be a area that you can expand into quickly. And think of that Tarana can be used as a replaceable solution. So you could set it up, operate it, grab customers right away as you're building out and expanding your fiber network, and then relocate Tarana to another green area, greenfield area, or some other area that you want to infiltrate with service in the future. So the idea is that you're constantly building your fiber network, but in order to grab customers quickly and to be able to increase revenue fast while you're building out the rest of your network, that would be another consideration.
Very cool. That's actually an excellent point that makes it kind of like a fungible asset. You can take it, wash, reuse, recycle, put it up somewhere else, and light up another portion of an area where you can expand. Bob, so optimizing CapEx, that's kind of the whole name of the game. And when it comes to building your network, do you feel that Tarana is able to expand your network with where you would get the biggest bang for your buck in your business?
Well, yes. The short answer is yes. From the start, we focused on secondary and rural markets. And historically, they've been underserved for a reason. There's relatively few revenue streams, right? And so we've been very deliberate about how we construct a hybrid network to optimize CapEx and put the CapEx in the place where the densities were. What next generation fixed wireless allows us to do is expand that footprint, collect more revenue opportunities for an overall region. So we're able to get to an ROI a lot faster by leveraging that type of a approach. Additionally, I will say what you're showing here on the screen, we have two divisions, StarTouch and Newbeam. Newbeam is our residential and small business market focused service. StarTouch is carrier large enterprise. And on the carrier side, we again deliberately have focused on high capacity links that increasingly now provide the backhaul for our Newbeam services, right? So here again, trying to collect as many revenue streams over a single infrastructure to maximize the CapEx utilization.
That's right, because we just had another question that popped up. Based on the underlying demand economics, poor areas where ARPU is low, do you prefer other fixed wireless vendors with significant lower base station and CPE costs to cover your CapEx?
So is that a question for me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So it's interesting, right? You might from a desk, come up with that, approach. But in actuality, right, the last thing you want to do is have to, roll a truck or, lose your customer to churn. And I think that's what you're faced with if you go with an inferior approach, as you described. So our view is let's put the best tool in place so that we can have confidence in the service that we're offering. We have confidence that the customer is going to be satisfied and not switch over to another provider when they come to town. And each one of our markets is supported by local service, right? So if something goes wrong in the off case, we do have somebody to dispatch.
Thank you. Bob, any final notes?
Well, I will say that, I'm really glad that this type of an opportunity to have a conversation about both technologies exists, and I hope they continue, because I think this is the right way to think about it as you're building networks. The BEAD program itself has been kind of a case study in that. And in Washington State, we've been fortunate enough to get some BEAD awards. We're moving forward on those. Some were next generation fixed wireless like ours. Others were fiber. It's not a one size fits all geography in most states. And I think this is the right way to kind of think about how to solve the problems.
I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
Kyle, how about from you?
No, I just think that there's great resources and information that WAVE can provide. And if you get started quickly with what you need to help plan, assess, and analyze areas, we can complement their efforts, but they have the tools and the ability and the knowledge to do all that.
That's true. So, I mean, if anybody is interested in taking on Tarana and deploying it in their network, WAVE does offer certification programs where we can train your technicians, your network admins on how to configure, how to protect, how to install and best protect your investment industry standard practices. So we can help you, with wireless backhones if need be, on how to feed your Tarana network. If you need integration services with cabinets, have something ready-made that you just kind of put in place and install and light up. All of those offers are at your disposal from WAVE. We also provide a full end-to-end solution. I mean, I always say we cover everything from the CO all the way to the customer's home gateway. That Tarana RN that you're going to install, it's at a business, at a SOHO, or at the customer's going to need a router of some sort, a wireless gateway, mounts for you to mount it on. You're going to need fiber to feed that tower. We provide duct, fiber, splice enclosures, the whole shebang. So from the CO all the way to the customer's home gateway, we can help you design and build the entire network. So again, you have an incredibly talented team of engineers that I've been privileged to be a part of, with real life industry experience, and we'll be happy to help in that endeavor. I want to thank you both very much for your time and your knowledge and your dedication to the industry and everything you've done to help bridge the technical or the coverage divide and in connecting the unconnected. So thank you both for participating, and thank you to all the attendees for being part of today's webinar.
Thank you,
I would
Bayan.
also like to thank you all and to remind the audience that the WAVE website is located on the console. A link to the WAVE website is right there on your console, so do utilize those tools there. Also, to learn about upcoming FBA webinars, you can use the QR code on your screen now, or you can navigate to the FBA website. I'd like to remind everyone that we hope everyone will join us for our Fiber for Breakfast webinar series featuring FBA President and CEO Gary Bolton, which are live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and past episodes are available on YouTube and SoundCloud. Again, thank you to our presenters today. That was fantastic. And thank you to our audience. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate it.